Aizawa gave a long, suffering sigh. When did his life get like this? How did this happen? Never, ever, in his life, did he think he would be teaching a class that consists entirely of siblings. Kiba Midoriya. Quirks, blood boost, blood bending, regeneration, rage, etc. Fuhai/Kyosei Midoriya. Quirks, unkillable / symbiote. Sansan Midoriya. Quirk, acid body. Netsu Midoriya. Quirk, eternal flame. Yami Midoriya. Quirk, GRIMM. Eri Midoriya. Quirk, rewind. Era Midoriya, quaking voice. Kira Midoriya, vectors. Naku Midoriya, depression. Aikyo Midoriya, energy absorption. Kai Midoriya, kaiju. Ashi Midoriya, speed. Akumu Midoriya, nightmare. Tatakai Midoriya, quirks, key manipulation, sky dance, instant transmission, etc. Juken Midoriya, quirk, transformation, although it's arguable if that can be counted as a single quirk. Saika Midoriya, quirks, well it's debatable whether or not one could call what she has quirks seeing how she was made, but she did have numerous abilities. Himiko Midoriya, quirk, transform. Shur Midoriya, quirk, necromancy. Kota Izumi, not technically a Midoriya, but he was practically a Midoriya. Quirk, Hydokinesis. Aka Midoriya, quirk, well not that hard to talk about. Do you count just her actual quirk or do you count the quirks of her numerous meat suits? The girl herself wasn't even technically, physically present. She just sent one of her Nomu puppets instead, the same Nomu that almost killed him at the USJ all those years ago, which made him feel all kinds of conflicted. Nizu approved of it because technically speaking she was here since her consciousness was inside all of her puppets and this was absolutely ridiculous. And what's worse, this was just his class. There was another class just full of Midoriyas. They literally had to make 2 more classes in the hero course because people would absolutely complain about it otherwise. Heck, people still complained about it. Even ignoring the fact that they were all from the same family, just their quirks caused no small amount of headaches to the UA staff. Firstly, there was a loud minority of people who still had problems with Nomu, so there was that. There was also the matter that 2 of these kids were former killers even if one of them didn't remember it. Then of course there was figuring out how they were gonna handle students that had multiple quirks. And how they were gonna handle students who were wildly more powerful than them. And how they were gonna handle students whose quirks literally gave them entire armies with multiple abilities. And handling Kai was a completely different issue. The poor boy had to stay outside during lessons and look in through the window. Aizawa took a big sip of his coffee. It's times like this when I remember Midoriya Izuku could take over the world, heck that probably wouldn't even be that bad. At least he would care. And the worst part of it all is that this was only wave 1 of the Midoriyas. God help me. Hours later at Midoriya Manor, in Kiba's room. Ahaha. Greetings my minions. I have returned from my day of lesions at the most prestigious hero school, UA. Kiba shouted into her camera. She was sitting at her computer with her recording gear set up and operating, and a controller in her hand. She was ready to play. Today we'll be playing Flame Insignia Warriors, the spin-off Muso game based on the ever-popular series Flame Insignia. Kiba explained. Now my minions, some of you might wonder why I would play such a game considering I have yet to play a Flame Insignia game. Yeah, I'm confused? Don't question our lady. Please inform us lowly minions, my lady. I think I know why. You see my underlings, we have a special guest appearing with us today. Kiba's grin grew a bit wider. Introducing everyone's favorite VTuber and mangaka, artist, writer, and character designer. Creator of beloved horror series Bernadetta's Tower, top-selling isekai Trails of Hraesvelg, and everyone's favorite fantasy series, Fears or War, and the character designer and a writer for the hit strategy game, Flame Insignia. And most impressively, my sister, Funoko. Meanwhile in Fukunoko's room, Fuku waited anxiously as Kiba introduced her. Ah, why is she hyping me up so much? I'm not that special. Fuku said that despite plenty of evidence telling her the opposite. At first, she had kept her work to herself. Being very sure that people would hate it, the last thing she wanted was to publish her work online. And that was exactly what Mu did. With the encouragement of Kei, that sneaky ghost snuck into her room and published her work online. Of course, she was horrified at first, but much to her surprise it became pretty popular and she was given quite a bit of praise. And so out of fear of disappointing her new fanbase, she continued, gaining more and more fans. Eventually, this moved on from web novels to mature manga, where she would personally draw and write the story. Then, it moved into official manga, as more and more people started to take notice of her work, and many offers were made. This eventually led to what she was today. A young writer and artist that was considered a prodigy in her field, and was quickly raking in all sorts of cash. Of course, not that she needed all that cash. Part of the reason she was apparently so good at what she did, was because she still seldom went outside and had plenty of time to practice. Izuka still took care of most of her needs, however now she was able to give money back to him, and that felt good to her. Overall, while it was terrifying at first and even now the fear of failure still haunted her, she was a bit more confident now. The support of her family and fans goes a long way to push her beyond what she used to be. Being a VTuber on the other hand, was something she was a lot less confident about. Another thing she had kind of been thrust into, this time by Kiba in an attempt to get her out of her shell. Her logic was simple. If she didn't want to be seen, then she'd just use a digital mask. Kiba kept bugging her over and over and over again until she eventually relented and made an avatar. Fukunoko had taken to designing the avatar herself. It looked nothing like her, of course, she'd made sure of that. Instead, it looked more like a mix of Eri and Kei at about 13 years old. She had white hair with green highlights, ruby red eyes, delicate features, and a pale complexion. Overall, it was very cute. And Fuku didn't want to just let it go to waste. And being honest, the more and more she thought about it, pretending to be someone else didn't seem so bad. And so eventually she tried it. She streamed herself drawing a character, and she found the more she drew the more she'd find herself talking and more into it she'd get, the more she'd forget she was streaming and the less nervous she'd feel. After a while, she got more and more used to it, but she still wasn't fully comfortable with this. Hunoko. Fuku jolted up as Kiba said her VTuber/pen name. Crap. Fuku moved, quickly praising buttons on her computer, until her avatar showed up on Kiba's stream, besides the vampire girl herself. Fuku leaned over to the mic. Hey everyone. Funoko here. Ha, ha. It's Funoko again. Yet another crossover between my favorite two streamers. Well, they are sisters. Why is this a surprise? Funoko, how are you so talented? I love Bernadetta's tower so much. So today, we'll be playing this new game and asking my dear sister some questions. Kiba announced. Are you ready, Noko? I'll do my best. Fuku stuttered. An interview with Funoko? That never happens. I'm telling everyone about this. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Our queen has brought us a gift. The chat went wild at that, and suddenly the viewership started growing at a rapid rate. Holy cow, what happened to the views? Fuku panicked, seeing the number of people watching her growing and growing, so fast that she could barely read the numbers. Of course this would happen. You're one of the most popular writers and artists in Japan. Someday the entire world. And this is your first interview. And by the great and powerful Kiba of all people. I expect nothing short of 3 million viewers. Kiba boasted like she knew this would happen. Although in truth her estimate didn't seem to be far off. Kiba's average viewership was about 1 million views, and they were well above that now and still growing. 3 million? Fuku was freaking out. No one told her she'd be speaking to 3 million people. But she couldn't back out now. Not when everyone was waiting so eagerly for her. Damn it, Kiba. I really hate you sometimes. Fuku whined. No, you don't. You love me as everyone else does. Kiba said matter-of-factly with a smug look on her face. Now begin. Kiba pressed started and soon started playing the game. So, how does it feel to be the rising star of the Magna community? How does it feel to be blessed with the talent of a Midoriya? Kiba asked her sister. Well, I can't take all the credit. My family helps me a lot when it comes to, well, everything that I do. Fuku explained. Mu helps me with inspiration most of the time, but everyone else pitches into. A lot of the ideas from Bernadetta's tower come from others. One of the most popular monsters from that book, Abahoru, is inspired by a lot of what Eri and Kyoko told me. Wait, that thing came from Eri. That thing was fucking terrifying. I was having nightmares for months. Oh, poor sweet Eri. What has that girl been through? Kiba flinched. Abahoru was a rather intense part of the story. Zomboy, don't be fooled. She had to work up the nerve to read it for months. And she had nightmares the entire time. Deception and lies. I did no such things. Kiba shouted, taking a hit in the game after getting distracted. Gah, curse you Fu. Didn't feel bad my lady, that shit was terrifying. Absolutely, I still have nightmares. I actually pissed myself when I saw that full shot of that thing. God, I want that to be an anime. Some stupid parents sits their kid down to watch it, thinking oh anime's for kids, and then they hear their kid scream, and then they see Abahora, and then they both have to go to therapy for life. You need therapy. Anyway, like I said, I get a lot of help. Kay actually helps a lot when I'm writing animals. She tells me how they behave and move and stuff. Fuku admitted. And Eri also helps when I have to write about some of the more gruesome parts. Unicorn, you're welcome. Hi Eri, aren't you supposed to be in med school right now? Kiba asked. Caretaker, yeah Eri, aren't you supposed to be in med school right now? Oh crap, Papa caught ya. Run Eri, run. Unicorn, it's fine Dad. We're out early. I'm with Kay and Kyoko right now. With Eri, Kay, and Kyoko. The three girls were at a cafe enjoying some ice cream. Eri had her phone out and was checking on Kiba's stream. After waiting a few moments for Izuku to respond, she got her response, but instead of it being on stream, he had switched to texting her. Dad, you three went out on your own. To the city. Why didn't you take a seer orb with you? Eri shook her head as she texted back. She loved Izuku dearly, but sometimes his overprotectiveness could get problematic. Eri, Dad, no one wants to have those floating around them. Plus you have the GPS tracker on us. We'll be fine. Dad, we will be having a talk about this later young lady. Eri sighed, which didn't go unnoticed by her two siblings. Daddy found out about us leaving? Kyoko asked as she ate her chocolate mochi, and received a nod in response. I told you we should have taken a seer orb. Kyoko, those things creep everyone out. Remember when we got kicked out because we were disturbing the customers? Eri reminded her siblings. I don't understand why that happened. I think they're cute. Kay had finished her ice cream some time ago and was now on her second one. Well, most people don't share your sense of cuteness, Eri said, phrasing it as nicely as she could. So, how was Kiba's stream? Is Fuku doing okay, or is she frozen in fear? Kyoko asked in a slightly teasing manner. She's doing better than I thought. She's still stuttering a lot, but she hasn't broken down yet. Eri explained with a big smile on her face. I'm so proud of her. Me too. I remember when little Fuku was a scared little girl who never left her room. Now she's a super popular writer and artist. Kay Snakes gave out a pleasing hiss. Who still never leaves her room. Kyoko added. Hey, if I wrote manga, would that make me a mangaka? Kay laughed at her own joke. Get it because of Ka. That snake from that movie. Eri did a forced laugh and Kyoko just gave her a deadpan look. Humph, you two never laugh at my jokes. Kay gave a very childish pout. That's because they aren't funny. Kyoko shook her head disapprovingly. Thank goodness you're becoming a zookeeper. I still can't believe Dad bought a whole zoo for you. It's not just for me. A lot of our siblings like animals too, Kay defended. But since we're talking about careers, Eri has med school and hero school. It must be so hard trying to be a hero and a doctor at the same time. It really is. Eri groaned as she remembered the crap ton of work she had ahead of her, and laid her head down on the table. It's so much work I feel like I don't have any free time left. Kyoko and Kay gently patted Eri's head in reassurance. And I'm sure you're making Dad super proud. Kyoko told her with the warmest smile she could muster. And you're making all of us proud too. Eri looked up and returned the smile with twice the brightness. I know. Thanks, guys. So Kyoko, me and Eri figured out what we wanted to do. What about you Kyoko? Kay turned to the purple-haired girl. Kyoko frowned. Well, I was thinking that I'd just work for Dad. Like Yonda. I kinda thought you would do that. Dad's probably gonna give you a long talk about how you should choose your own path and how you shouldn't feel indebted to him, but you'll probably be fine after that, Eri said. Yeah, I know how Dad can be. Kyoko agreed. Meanwhile, in Shiroku's room, Shiroku was standing opposite two of her siblings, Fu and Mu, both of which were fully nude. Mu wasn't fully visible as he was hiding everything but his head and his dimension. ANF Fu was using Kyosei to cover his private parts. No. Shiroku turned her head and refused, crossing her arms for good measure. But I need clothes. Mu's normally pale face was red with embarrassment. I know you're upset, but we don't really have much of an option, Fu told her. Well, then you shouldn't have destroyed all the clothes I made you. Shiruka shouted at them, making Mu flinch with how harsh her tone was. Do you have any idea how many clothes I have to make? Shiruka threw up her arms, gesturing to her room. Her room was quite a bit bigger than it was when she first got it, as it now worked as both her room and her design studio. As a wildly successful clothing designer, she would receive tons of requests to make people's clothes. Although most of the reason behind her success was due to the material she used, the extremely rare and expensive spider silk. Her room was absolutely crawling with spiders, some of which were the size of large dogs, all of them working on creating clothes alongside their queen. I have 22 requests to fill by the end of the week. And you two want me to stop and make your clothes, that you will almost certainly destroy. Shiruka walked up to the two of them, raising herself above them to make her already intimidating appearance even scarier. Like all the other clothes you destroy. Well, to be fair, I am a hero course student, so it's expected that my clothes are gonna get destroyed every now and then. Fu defended himself. Plus Himiko still likes to jump out and cut me open a lot. I promise I won't do it again. Mu was embarrassed to admit the number of times he had forgotten to take off his clothes before using his quirk and thus ended up reducing them to taters. No one really made clothes that were immune to being ripped apart on a molecular level by the unearthly forces of another dimension. Poof. Fine. Daddy would get mad if I let you two walk around naked. Shiruka huffed. She walked over to a nearby box and unlocked it, before opening it up and pulling out some very plain white clothes. Shiruka threw them at the two boys. Here. Wear these until I can make you something better. They're rejects, so don't feel too bad about destroying them. Fu nodded and took the clothes, before leaving to go put them on. Mu just stayed there for a moment, before looking up at Shiruka with an even redder face. I need to get out of the portal to get dressed, sorry. Shiruka groaned and turned around. Meanwhile, with Izuku, the now 22-year-old man was passed out at his desk, loudly snoring and drooling on his paperwork. Suddenly, the door to his office burst open, and in walked the head maid of the Midoriya household, Tsukuga, dressed in her normal maid outfit, which was Shiruka's ideas, not Izuku's. Sir, she said in her typical emotionless monotone. Ha! Izuku's eyes quickly opened and he jumped in his seat, jolting into an upright position. What? You were supposed to take a break today, Sue said, giving him a robot glare. Yet here you are, working. Oh crap, that was today? Izuku thought, and then he suddenly heard a failure voice in his head. Yes father, that was today. Yonda walked into the room beside Sue and gave him a much more intense glare. Sorry. Izuku apologized, raising his hands up defensively. I was just handling the forms to expand the greenhouse. It was Otoko's request. Otoko was another child that had decided to work for Izuku. He maintained the garden and the greenery all around the house, so basically he did what he did before but more officially. Izuku tried to offer him pay, but Otoko pointed out that Izuku bought him everything he wanted anyway. Yonda shook her head and Sue took a menacing step forward. Strings came out of her fingers and were raised above her head, pointed at Izuku. Sir, it is time for your break. Don't worry about him, Sue, I got it. Said yet another familiar voice. Ochako walked in, dressed in her casual clothes and a bag over her shoulder. Oh Ochako. I didn't know you were coming. Izuku said with a nervous smile. What are you all? Ochako didn't say a word as she walked over to Izuku, before picking him up and hoisting him over her shoulder. I knew you'd forget about your day off, that's why I already planned a date for today, Ochako explained cheerily. So terrible father, you are so bad at relaxing that the number one hero herself needs to come down and help you. Yonda said sarcastically. Yeah, shame on me. Izuku gave a weak chuckle, as he was carried out of the room. I guess I'll leave everything to you and the others. I'll see you soon. Bye, father. Enjoy your day. Yonda waved him goodbye, as she and Sue got to work. After Ochako carried him out the door of his office and down the stairs, Izuku started to get a little embarrassed after seeing many of the children giggle at seeing their father/brother/friend getting carried like luggage. You can let me down now, Izuku told her while trying to hide his blush. Nope. Consider this the punishment for overworking. Ochako teased him. Ugh! Izuku groaned and covered his now red face. A few minutes later, as Izuku and Ochako exited the enormous house, they were met with the sounds of explosions and small earthquakes not too far away. In the distance they could see Kai, sparring with Koda and Netsu. The two of them flying around using fire and water respectively while Kai did his best to swat them out of the air. You know, we may hate how you overwork yourself, but look at what you've made. Ochako and Izuku turned to see the building. Grim flew around the building, with children laughing on their backs. Other kids ran around playing games in the front yard. Explosions and crashes could be heard from kids playing and sparring in the forest. All around, they could hear and see happy children, on a bright sunny day. Izuka smiled. Yeah, I love my job,